Okay, so coming back to the needles, taking them out. The adjustment, of course, for the slides, synchronize them, is done up here, but we're not going to touch those. Do not touch these at all. So undo all these nuts. What this lock nut does is it retains it, it screws in to the throttle shaft. Okay, so I've already taken off some other ones, as you can see over here. Over there I've taken that one off, taken the other three off, as you can see further along. 1, 2, over there, that one's taken off. So we're going to commence to take the last one off. Okay, so here we are, we're going to take that one off. Just got a few little steps to go, and that comes out. As you can see, that's now loosened up that. See that little nut, bloody depth of fields, that little nut there screws into that hole there, which in turn screws down into the shaft that you can see down in between that carb body and this linkage. There's a threaded hole in that shaft, and this fellow here screws into that and retains that in situ for all four. So as when that throttle shaft is turned, all four slides in the carb body open up at the same time to whatever you've set them. Like I said, do not touch these two. Now the next step, these little retaining areas, this little access here is a rubber cap in there. I'll just show you that rubber cap. There he is there. So you take that off on both sides. On both sides, take that off. And also on the other side, just make my way back over there. On the other side, and about here, you can just see it, there's a tab that fits into there. That tab looks like this. You can just see it there, okay? That screw screws into that screw hole. That tab underneath slides down onto the shaft. You've got to take that out because that prevents this throttle shaft from any lateral movement, any sideways movement, any axial movement from the left to the right. So that little fellow there has to come out. Now once we've removed all those previous items, we then get a drift. Okay, with this drift we put that there on the end of the shaft. And what we're going to do is we're going to lightly tap that, very, very lightly, implying gently, bently tap that until you start to see some movement of that throttle linkage shaft. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap that so as that end of the shaft I showed you previously clears and frees this linkage, clears that linkage and frees it up. So we're going to tap it, you can see it just between the carb body there and the linkage. We're going to tap it until we no longer see that shaft there but see it here. Don't go any further than body inset, that body part there, the carb body. Okay, so there it is. I can't hold this and tap with a half-pound hammer and get it over there, but I'll show you that particular part where I need it, where we need it positioned. Okay, what we're doing today is we're changing the needles on the Z1R carburetors. Okay, now really you don't have to take these carburetors out to change the needles on the throttle slide, which of course moves up and down the carb body. Don't need to do that, because let me tell you, these, if they're somewhat hardened or semi-hardened and not new ones, and even new ones, can be an absolute handful, can be somewhat problematic getting them back into there. The carb to engine manifolds are easy. The carbs just seem to slip into a recessed area within the manifolds and are retained quite firmly within. But these, they're a nightmare. Once you've done them about 6 or 7 times, you soon get the gist of what's going on. They become easy, but until then, they're hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the needles in these McCuney, the VM29 smooth bores. They're the caps down there. Okay, so you take those off, of course, after you've taken the tank off. Okay, so looking down there, you can actually see now that the shaft, I've lightly tapped it laterally across, so it's now situated just underneath this side of the carb body where my fingernail is. You can just sort of see him there. So now what we have is we're able to grab that there, get the big paw out of the way. It's just a one-man show here, and it's quite hard holding all this together and doing what we're supposed to do. So now we can actually extract, look at that, extract our throttle slide out of the carb body. So that is known as a throttle slide. There is our needle. See that needle? Sharp, looks like a needle, like a sewing needle. Try and put me there, down there where my thumb is pointing. Okay, so now we'll proceed to take that needle. We're not going to, we'll take it out, yes, but we will be adjusting it. I need to put it where I've put the rest of them. So I didn't show you the 3 previous movements. I'm showing you the one single movement, which is the same for the other 3 carb adjustments. These carbs are numbered from left, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 4 is situated on the right-hand side of the bike. Number 4 carburetor feeding number 4 pot. Okay? So your pistons, or cylinders if you like, are also numbered from the left of the bike, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is pot number 4 carby, pot meaning cylinder. So it's feeding this particular combustion chamber. Okay? Now just before we tap that shaft across to free this linkage, I forgot to mention just here on that throttle cable swing, pull push swing here, there's one more. You've got to undo that. So there's literally 1, 2, the other 2 carbies on the left hand side, there's 4, and that makes 5. They screw down into the shaft. Those 5 bolts, there's actually a thread hole in that shaft where they screw into, so the 5 of them, including that fellow there, needs to be removed. Okay, as you can see, those two screws have been removed. So what we do now is take that bracket off. So that bracket will come away. That bracket comes away, just lifts straight off that. Now underneath there, you just push the underside of the pin. Okay, get your pinky underneath there and just push up. You can see the bit in the middle lifting up when you push down on the bottom of the pin. Okay. Once we get it to that level, we can just remove that top. That just lifts off. That lifts straight off. I've only got one hand and I've got to hold this phone. So I'm just going to drop that little cap down there. Okay, that's the cap that I just showed you. It lifts straight off when you push on the base of the pin. So here we have the top of the pin, the needle, sorry, which is shaped like a pin. So that just comes away. Be very gentle with the side of that, because any mark on there detracts, takes the smoothness away, and if you've got any irregularity there along this part of the tapered needle, you're going to have a miss between 4,000 and 6,000 RPM. You're going to have a little flutter. The only way to fix it is to buy a new needle. What we're going to do is we're going to take that tab washer off, and I am going to lift it. You can just see those notches. So this tab washer is situated on the third notch from the top. I need to move it up one to the second notch from the top, because that's the application that I've chosen for the other three, and they all have to be the same, so they're metering the same fuel air mix, the same fuel, the same parcel of fuel air mix into the combustion chamber. So what I'm showing you here is the top of the throttle slide. See those two little screws there? I'll enlarge it. There they are. Two little crosshead screws. It's about 4 mil separating them. Half a centimetre, 5 or 6 mil separating them. They need to be unscrewed. When you unscrew them, you literally lift this bracket away from the throttle slide. Be very selective with the screwdriver that you choose to undo those two crossheads, those two small screws. You butcher them and good luck. Good luck, because it's down deep. It's in a recessed area, so it's very hard to get any other extraction tools in there to do what you need to do. So be very, very carefully. Fit a screwdriver into the crosshead recesses that fits. Okay. I'll proceed to take them off, and then I'll show you the next step. Now those tab washers are removed in a very special way. You see the 2 points here and here, 1 and 2. See the gap? What you do is you position those two legs, if you like, of the tab washer onto a bit of wood or plastic, like thus. You keep your hand over it and you push down on the pin right up the top. Don't push down here and bend the pin. Just either side of the tab washer, you push down onto the wood and you'll hear it clip out away, but keep your hand over it so this doesn't spring off into oblivion and is lost forevermore. Just push down on the wood on those two legs of the tab washer and you'll feel it come away from the pin head. Then move it and put it into the second one from the top. That's for my application. Yours of course will be different. Yours of course will be different because you may not have a snorkel, you may not have an air box, you may have AirPods. I don't agree with them, but once you start making all these changes in the induction system, you in fact free it up, and with each adjustment determines which little notch you will place that tab washer on the needle, and that raises and lowers the pin in the throttle sleeve. And by raising it, you increase the amount of fuel coming in, and by lowering it, of course, as it moves up the taper, you reduce the fuel that comes into it. You either richen it or lean it by way of this needle. And of course there's other adjustments here by restricting the air. So that's like an air mixture screw because it's on the induction side. So by increasing and decreasing the air, screwing that in or screwing it out, you determine how much air is coming in there to mix in with your fuel. If that adjustment is on this side, well then it's actually restricting and limiting fuel. But this is like an air mixture screw here, air coming in. But neither here nor there. Now to put that on, to push this little tab washer back on, of course it's the reverse. You put it into the hole that you need, you push down on your wood base and you'll feel it clip into place. Do not use pliers on that. Do not use square nose pliers or pointy nose pliers because you'll obliterate that tab. You'll bend it in such a fashion where it will not fit evenly, and it'll be a bit higher or a bit lower than what it should be because of that bent tab washer. Okay, all the best now. And assembly, of course, is the reverse of the disassembly that I've just showed you. All the best. Okay, when fitting this slide back up, it's important to note that there's a cutaway there. See that little cutaway? That gap? Well, down in there, down below there, you can just see a little brass locator right down on the bottom on this side where my finger is. On this side, right down the bottom. Well, that little notch fits into that slide, so be careful when you put that back in. So as you can see, that's back in situ. So what you've got to do now is gently tap that shaft back from down there, the other side, back through here. Make sure you line that up onto the shaft as you're tapping it through. And once you see all the screws through these holes, all the lock screws that secure the bracket onto the shaft, screw the screws back in, tighten them up very, very gently. Don't strip anything. You'll have big problems otherwise. Now, thank you, that completes the exercise. As you can see, I've pushed that shaft through, and you can push it through with your hand very, very gently. Just push it through with from the other side with your finger until it gets back to there. And you can watch the alignment of the thread hole in the shaft through the hole on the bracket. Once it's aligned, screw that screw back in. Just leave them loosely for the time being. Now once that's aligned, all these others will be aligned. No doubt you'll probably have to slide them back and forwards to clearly line up the thread hole through that hole where the bolt will go. And don't forget, over here on your cable cradle, I call it, put your lock nut, shaft lock nut through there. So 5 bolts in total, 4 carbs and cable cradle lock nut in there. Then put your caps back on, put your rubber caps back on there, and the other tab, the other little tab that was situated there that fitted down into the notch of the shaft, which located it throughout the daisy chain. All the best, and send a few likes my way, and be sure to subscribe to my channel.